State, and each time the Fighting Irish had been denied. 3 of those defeats had come by 4 points or less. But nonetheless, the home of the Nittany Lions had been anything but friendly to Irish fans during the decade. With the chilly, gusty conditions making passing the football difficult, the Irish entered State College in 1989, knowing the running game would prove all important. It would be particularly challenging against a Penn State defense ranked first in the nation in scoring defense, giving up just 9 points a game. But it was a challenge the Notre Dame offensive linemen relished.
From the beginning of the season, we knew that we had the capability of being an explosive offensive unit. It was all a matter of putting everything together, carrying out the assignments, and doing what the coaching staff had in store for us to do throughout the whole season. And in the Penn State game, we played virtually air-free ball, which consequently put us in a position where we could execute the way we were supposed to.
Not surprisingly, the 17th-ranked Nittany Lions played with great emotion early in their home finale, and they scored on each of their first 2 possessions to take a 10-7 lead. But Penn State should have known what was in store after the very first play from scrimmage. Tony Rice scooted 24 yards on a draw play up the middle, and that proved typical of what the Irish would do to Penn State's defense all day long. Behind by a field goal, Notre Dame stayed with its bread and butter. First, Rice skirted left end for 17 yards. Then Waters headed the same direction for 19 more. 4 plays later, Waters' dash to the flag gave the Irish a lead they would not relinquish.
Lot to the right. Here's the fake, no, the handoff, and coming around the right side is Waters. 10. Waters down to the 5, the 3, the 1, into the end zone. Touchdown!
After Stan Smagala made a key stop on Penn State's Blair Thomas, the Irish were off and running. Rice, who had finished 4th in the Heisman Trophy voting, did complete a pass, connecting with Raghib Ismail on first down. But Notre Dame kept it on the ground the rest of the way, with Anthony Johnson finally getting the 6 points on 4th down. The second half was much the same story. When Smagala recovered a fumble deep in Penn State territory on the Lions' first possession, the Irish wasted no time converting. Rice backed his way in on 3rd down from the 1. Penn State wasn't ready to fold yet, but Notre Dame's running attack was simply relentless. With Rice gaining a career-high 141 yards, Waters 128, and Ismail 84, the Irish finished with an astounding 425 yards on the ground. That marked the most ever given up by a Penn State team in the history of the school. Fittingly, CBS Sports named the Irish offensive line as MVP of the game, as seniors Grunhard, Brown, Brennan, junior center Mike Helt, and junior guard Tim Ryan manhandled a Penn State defense that had been permitting only 104 rushing yards per game. With visions of the warm weather finale against Miami in the Orange Bowl now officially permitted, the Irish could turn their sights to the Hurricanes. The challenge was clear to all. It was a matchup that needed no hype. Number 1 Notre Dame versus once beaten Miami. No one needed to add any more. Winless in the Orange Bowl since 1977, the Irish had hopes of ending that jinx the same way they had done the trick in Beaver Stadium. There was just one problem. The 7th-ranked Hurricanes had other plans. Thanks to 4 or 5 key plays that all went Miami's way, Dennis Erickson's club did what no other team had been able to do for 2 seasons. They beat Notre Dame. And they did it with a bone-crunching defense and a patient offense that took only what the Irish gave it.
In preparation for the Miami game, I believe our team and our coaching staff was confident that we would go down Miami and we could come away with a victory. As it turned out, I think we played the worst football game that we have in the past 2 years here at Notre Dame. And it just so happens on that very day, Miami played the very best game of their season. Along with the crowd noise and I think the weather a little bit and the fact that Miami's probably one of the best teams in the country, ended up as our only blemish on our 13-game schedule this season. And it was only at the very end, after a long and difficult road, did we fall prey to probably one of the best teams in the country.
Miami didn't dominate the Irish as much as it did all the things it had to do to win. Notre Dame held the Hurricanes to a respectable 305 total yards, but a couple of huge passing plays had as much to do with the Irish undoing as anything else. After grabbing a 3-0 edge on their first possession, the Hurricanes made big play number 1 just before the end of the first period on a bomb from Craig Erickson to Dale Dawkins. But with All-America quarterback Tony Rice both running and throwing, the Irish fought back. They drove impressively to 1st and goal at the 1 until a tough stand by the home team forced Notre Dame to settle for a field goal by junior kicker Billy Hackett. With its defense finding the key to Erickson's success, Notre Dame doggedly hung tough. And when Ned Bolcar picked off a pass and showed his hurdling form in tying the score, the Irish faithful wakened.
3 wide receivers right. Erickson back to throw, dumps it over the middle, picked off Bolcar. 45, Bolcar to the 40, 35, 30, 25, 20, down to the 50, down to the 10, down to the 5. Touchdown, Notre Dame!
With Notre Dame in position to add to its point total in the final moments of the half, Miami turned the tables. A Bernard Clark interception set up a Hurricane score just 13 seconds before intermission, making it 17-10. But the Irish weren't finished. On Miami's first possession of the third period, freshman tackle Eric Jones' sack prompted a fumble that Devon McDonald nearly recovered for Notre Dame. Now backed up to their own 3 and seemingly needing a miracle on 3rd and 43, the Hurricanes got just that. The back-breaking completion to Randall Hill took some steam out of the Irish defense and turned out to be the keynote play in a 22-play touchdown drive that lasted nearly 11 minutes. Notre Dame's last shot came on an 87-yard march that began at its own 5. Once inside the 10, the Miami defense stiffened. Forced to go for 6 on 4th down, the Irish came up empty. Miami then used up most of the clock while marching to a final field goal. The amazing 23-game streak against unparalleled opposition was history. But for consensus All-American Chris Zorich and his teammates, redemption and a return trip to the Orange Bowl were little more than a month away. Brought back a variety of bowl game memories for Fighting Irish fans. Notre Dame would be playing in the Orange Bowl Classic for the first time since a win over top-ranked Alabama in 1975. Continuing another Irish tradition, Notre Dame was poised to take on the #1 team in the land in a postseason game for the 7th time since 1969. In fact, the Irish had claimed national championships by virtue of their 24-23 triumph over top-ranked Alabama in the '73 Sugar Bowl and their convincing 38-10 romp over #1 Texas in the Cotton Bowl in 1977. All those history-making wins were simply pages in a scrapbook for the '89 Notre Dame team. These Irish were more interested in making history of their own, and their mission was to do it amidst a hectic week of palm trees, media appearances, sun, and fun. For some teams, bowl games were a pleasant reward at a warm weather site for a season of accomplishment. But there was so much more at stake for Notre Dame in 1989. The Irish Orange Bowl Challenge was no different than those they had faced all year long, to prove themselves all over again in one more football game against the best that college football could offer.
Going into the Colorado game, there are 3 factors that we needed to concentrate upon. One was the fact that we still had a chance to win a national championship. And we played the toughest schedule throughout the course of the year, and Colorado being #1 was the best way for us to prove that we were the best team. 2 was the fact that just the seniors didn't want to go out losers, period. 3 was the fact that we knew that for the University of Notre Dame, we had to come out and dominate. Coach Oates told us that this game was important because we needed to reset the Notre Dame standard. And we went out there, and I feel that most of us believe we accomplished that.
This time it was unbeaten Colorado that stood in the way of the Irish. And the Buffaloes, in the midst of a storybook season, were on a mission of their own. With everyone else needing an Irish win over Colorado to keep the national championship up for grabs, Lou Holtz's team ironically even earned the cheers of Miami Hurricane fans. But once game time came around, the sun in front of Miami gave way to some fierce football, especially the defensive sort. Both sides had their first half opportunities in front of a record Orange Bowl crowd, but neither team ended up with much to show for them. Although the Notre Dame defense made its presence felt immediately, Colorado managed to move the football early. But the luck of the Irish was anywhere but with the Buffaloes. The Big 8 champions appeared on the next series. Usually dependable kicker Ken Culbertson pulled a chip shot field goal attempt far to the left after Colorado had reached the Notre Dame 5. Colorado's final first half possession showcased a momentum-shifting goal line stand, one of the most impressive ones Irish coach Lou Holtz could recall. After the Buffs had rumbled impressively to first and goal at the Irish 1, DeJuan Francisco single-handedly repelled the enemy on first down. The defensive surge seemed to ignite the dormant Irish offense. Moving from its own 1 in the final 3 minutes of the half, Notre Dame benefited from big gainers by Tony Rice and consensus All-American flanker turned tailback Raghib Ismail. A nifty catch by senior split end Pat Eilers drove the Irish into field goal range. But after 3 successive timeouts, Colorado rose up to block Billy Hackett's attempt from 27 yards out. That left the teams tied at 0-0 at halftime for the first time in the Orange Bowl since 1938. But the momentum generated by the goal line stand and the late offensive awakening seemed to carry over for Notre Dame after intermission. On 3rd and 11, Rice tossed to sophomore Tony Smith for 27 yards. Then Anthony Johnson added 29 of his own. Two plays later, Johnson put the first points of the evening on the scoreboard as the Irish needed just over 3 minutes to negotiate the 69 yards. The Irish quickly dug a hole for themselves as successive penalties made it 1st and 32 back in the Notre Dame end of the field. Ismail's performance earned him the MVP award from NBC Sports and proved especially timely, considering Ricky Waters' role was reduced to that of cheerleader after an injury on the 3rd play of the game. But after an exchange of punts, the Irish embarked on a 9-minute drive that both typified Notre Dame's relentless running game and ended whatever hopes remained for a Colorado national championship. The Irish controlled the football for nearly 20 of 30 minutes while taking command in the second half. And it was the Notre Dame defense that held a Colorado team that had been averaging 473 yards and 41 points per game to just 282 yards and a single touchdown. Lou Holtz had told his Irish players at intermission that how they reacted in the second half would determine their approach to things the rest of their lives. He wasn't disappointed, and neither were the fans of the Fighting Irish. Once the clock had run out on the 1989 season, the final tally was an impressive one. 12 victories for the 2nd straight season. Wins over champions of the Big 10, the Big 8, the Pac-10, and the ACC. 12 straight weeks as the unbeaten #1 team. An all-time record win streak of 23 straight games. And an Orange Bowl win over the #1 ranked team.
2, 1, 2, 3.
But Notre Dame's football season comprised far more than statistics and records. The Fighting Irish earned the respect of the college football world as they risked their unbeaten record and #1 ranking week after week in emotional confrontations against the most talented teams in the nation.
I remember this team as a group of unappreciated winners. It was a group of young men that played the game not to please the fans or the news media or the television commentators. It was a group that played the game because they really and truly loved the game and they loved one another. It was obvious we had outstanding senior leadership. We had a closeness. But yet at the same time, we had a group of people who were completely dedicated to seeing this season to a successful conclusion. This football team had more adversity than any I've ever been around, yet they didn't cause a single bit of it themselves. They never complained, they never made excuses, they just went out and probably accomplished as much as any football team I've ever been associated with. We've often said it isn't what you do, it's what you had to overcome in order to do it. That's why I think I'll look back on the 1989 season and say that this football team was a group of overachievers and maybe the best I've ever been associated with.